just thought that I would share a few things that the Lord used when he was sharing these things with me, when he was bringing me into the knowledge of these things for the very first time. I've always shared that it was not the easiest experience, simply because God will just pour the information into you. And many times I had this cold, just the phrase, I froze, like that, when I would come to the understanding or the realization of yet another thing. And God was showing me just some instances. I've only listed 3 or 4 here, and I might not share all of them. He just showed me how to look. And once my eyes became trained in how to look, I couldn't unsee them. And so the first thing that really shocked me was, we know from the book of Enoch that I've covered that 200 angels came down on Mount Hermon. Now, when I was young, I was a true movie aficionado, and there is a movie studio by the name of Paramount. I'm just doing that to avoid claims or anything. Para-Mount Pictures. And they have a very interesting logo at the beginning of all their movies. And what is it? It is the tip of a mountain. So when Paramount Pictures movies start, you see stars moving through the universe. So you see all these little stars moving through what is clearly space. You see the stars moving through space, but then what do? They begin to come down to Earth, and the first thing that they touch is water. So you see the stars coming down, and they begin to touch water because it's only water there. They dip their tips in the water, and then they come and settle at the top of a mountain, and they form on the head of a mountain a crown. Now, I've been watching that since I was a kid, but when I came to understand what was in Enoch, and I saw that one day when I was settling down to watch a movie, it froze me. He said they're intertwined and etched in human history. This basically is a very posh way of God saying, they're in your face all day long, and you just don't know what you're looking at. They're right in front of you all the time, but because you're blinded and you have no idea of these truths, you don't know what to look for. So the next time you see, for instance, Columbia Pictures is the picture of a goddess. I'm not sure what goddess that is, but she's definitely standing there, and she's holding this flame, and I think it has stars around the flame as well. You can look at these things. Another thing that the Lord brought up to me was concerning the reality of giants. When I was a kid, I read a lot of these books. They were insatiable to me. I've shared that on the blog, that I had no idea that God was basically laying down a library of understanding in my very, very young years, things that I would be able to easily draw from when he finally opened my eyes to the truth of these things. And the reality of giants, I don't think there's a story that's more famous than Jack and the Beanstalk. Which leads me to point out, many people feel that the fallen and even these things that we call aliens come from galaxies and come from worlds. And I just want to let you know that they don't come from any worlds, and they don't come from any Zeta thing or whatever they say they come from. They come from, and I was thinking of how to put it, and God gave me such an awesome analogy, and I will just share that now. If you live, as I am now here, in one apartment, at times when I'm here in this apartment doing things, or if I'm typing and I'm quiet, I can hear the person next door, not like hear their conversations, but if they're moving furniture around, for instance, or if they're vacuuming, those sounds are loud enough to come into this apartment. And this is such a perfect way to explain where these creatures are. They are not far from us at all. I don't care whether they bring ships and whether they bring those hovering UFOs and say we came here from 72. This is the deepest deception. I do not understand how people can believe these lies. Jesus made it clear that the serpent lies, says that he is the father of lies. You know, the devil is lying when his lips are moving. Everything that he says is a lie. So how can, for instance, the government that has been in connection with these things for so long possibly believe that they have come from so far away? This is one of the oldest deceptions in the scripture. When Joshua and the Israelites had rested, and the Gibeonites came from next door. They came from 2 towns over in torn clothes and dried and moldy bread and torn water skins, and said, we traveled many days to get here. It took us, when we left, our bread was fresh, but look, it's green with mold. We have been traveling for months. Make a pact with us because our enemies are fighting us. And Joshua was deceived by these people. He even prophesied and said, how do we know that you are not our neighbors? How do we know that you don't live in the next few towns? And they said, no, trust us, we don't. He strikes a pact with these people and discovers within a week that they live in the next town. This is the deception of the fallen. They don't live in any far-flung galaxy far, far away. They literally live in the same plane, separated by something. I cannot explain what that something is, but just as I am here, and if my neighbor vacuums or is playing miniature golf, those sounds translate right here. And my neighbor isn't living on another world. We're in the same building. So he's not in another world. He's just in another side room from me. And this is what this disclosure is going to be. It's going to come from the sky, which we don't understand. This is true. And it's going to look all intergalactical and stuff like that. But they are right here on the earth with us, contained here in our atmosphere and in our terrestrial earth. And they're not coming from anywhere deep. And that is just something we need to know. So giants are real. And for that, the Lord brought me to the story of Jack and the beanstalk and how Jack climbs the beanstalk. And there, attached to earth. For Jack climbed the beanstalk, and the story says that the beanstalk went into the sky. Jack simply climbed into the sky. Tower of Babel, anyone? Into the sky, which is still attached to this earth. And there in the sky, the story says that Jack found the realm of the giants where they had incredible treasures, and they sometimes would come and steal people, because that is where Jack got his wife. There was a princess who had been stolen from another land that the giants were keeping up there, which means that they would periodically come down to the earth, because that is the only place you can find women. Are you seeing the parallel with the story of Enoch? Of unterrestrial beings that nevertheless come to earth and interfere with human women, taking them to be captive with them. And so Jack steals as much gold coins as he can, and he also rescues this girl, and he climbs down this beanstalk, and the giant that he robbed raises an uproar when he sees Jack, and the giants begin to climb down the beanstalk after him. And you know the story. Jack comes back down to the firmness of the earth, and no longer a boy, but with a commanding tone that made his mother obey, shouted, "Bring me the axe." And she brought him the axe, and he cut down this connecting pole between the two realms, or the two dimensions. And the giants fall and are killed. All the giants that had come down onto the pole, they fall, and because of the impact, they are destroyed. The Lord brought this to my consciousness and told me that this is the kind of account that he sees as historical. So God does not view this as a myth or a fairy tale. It is taught to us. To me as a child, you read this in a book and you think it is a myth. But when you read these things written by the Brothers Grimm or Hans Christian Andersen, if you're interested in going to the library, you will find in those stories, preserved, accurate accounts of what witches do and giants do and fairies do. And the funny thing about those stories is nowadays, in this politically correct and woke culture, we will say, oh no, this is too graphic for children. But in those days, children read those stories because the parents would tell them that these were cautionary tales. In fact, it's even written, if you dare to look it up on the internet, that the ancient Christians would constantly admonish their children and tell them that if they were bad children, they would be eaten by dragons. This was a widely held belief. It was understood in those days that Satan was a dragon. But now, when people read about the dragon in the book of Revelation, they literally think that God cares about China and that the dragon in the book of Revelation is referring to China. Yet God is speaking about Satan, who has many names, one of them being the dragon. Revelation 13, the beast will rise from the sea, and he will get his power and authority from the dragon. Not the dragon, China, and President Xi. It's the dragon, Satan, long-lasting demonic power that wants to destroy humanity.